Before I demo this next painting, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about me and how I started on this road. I began my artistic journey in the early 1980s by studying and practicing fine art black and white photography. This was a good foundation for my passion for painting and drawing later in life. These are some of the photos I took in the 80s and 90s. I do still use photography as a tool for gathering shapes, subjects, and ideas. This is the reference photo I'll be using for this painting. Nice field and barn, sky and trees. What I really enjoy doing is charcoal sketching. I think this goes back to my black and white photography days. So I'm dealing really with the composition and the values and nothing more. So you'll notice here I added some atmosphere, maybe some fog. We've got a lot of lost and found edges in the distant hills. And in the trees, I've kind of clustered them into a major unit here instead of having the two sections. Really the hero composition-wise, the roof of this barn here. So you've got this really light roof and then this vertical right here that's really attention-grabbing. And it's not centered, it's off center in the composition. Okay, so let's put those aside. Now what I've done here is I've sketched in on the watercolor paper. This is 300 pound. I like using 300 pound because it doesn't buckle as much. So my palette, I keep it fairly limited and I keep my mixing wells kind of small. That way I force myself to remix. So I've got neutral tint, I've got raw sienna, there's cobalt teal, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue. Then I have turquoise, rose, Hansa Yellow, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, quinacridone nickel, I think they call it, or something like that. Quinacridone Rust, this is burnt sienna, Scarlet Pyrrol, and Alizarin crimson. Now I have a whole bunch of other paint here too. Those are kind of my mainstay on the palettes. I do rotate things out once in a while. Most of them are M-gram and Holbein. I try to, for the most part, use transparent just because I like the look of it. Let's start with the sky. And for the sky, I might just do, let's see, we'll wet it a little bit. To get things going here. And it's okay if I come down into the tree area, and then we'll come down here with some hills, which we can do a little bit later. Let's see here. We'll keep that moving actually. And then we've got the dark areas down here, which we can cover. I just want to make sure I don't go over anything that's light in that barn there. I'm referencing my charcoal drawing more than probably the photo here at this point. Okay, so as that kind of sits there, I'll mix up some blue, ultramarine blue. Then I will gray that down a little bit with some of the burnt sienna. And I like having mixes on my palette, and I can kind of swipe around. Let's see, move that over a little bit. Swipe around and get different strengths of color, going warm and cool. Let's see what that's at. That's fairly good. We'll just blast in some of this. Again, the clouds, I mean, we can do some clouds or leave some of it. Leave some of that, the white paper there. I'm a fan of letting watercolor do its own thing. Let's see here, maybe some yellows here. Let's put some yellow ochre in there. This is actually a Daniel Smith yellow ochre. It's a transparent. So it works well with skies and that sort of thing. As long as this is wet, we can play around with it. For skies, I really like to get in and out. While that's setting there, I can work on this foreground area. And it's fairly green. If I use the same mix for the sky and then add some Hansa Yellow to it, then I can get a nice green, subtle green. Got to mix up enough paint to make it work. Okay, so let's maybe go green, and then it's lighter up in the top, and then as it moves down, it's darker, and it will probably go warmer. Watercolor dries down about 20%, so if it looks good while I'm putting it on, it's not going to be correct. So I've got these lines here that I put in with the pencil. They're a little strong, but that's okay. I've got these lines here, so I'm going to try whatever I do. I'm going to try to follow those lines. I'm going to start adding some burnt sienna to that. But I like the dry brush technique here. Getting some specular highlights and things like that. Let's go a little bit cooler back here. Don't want it to be too interesting back there. Okay, there we go. Same with this side. Try to keep the interests central to the composition. More of this, more of this. We're going to lean this more warm. It's almost a gray color. And that'll be a nice bottom to our painting here. Okay, let's clean up the edge here. Okay, that might be okay. I I don't want such a hard line at this top here though, so I'm just gonna mess it up a little bit just so it can blend into whatever we're doing above there. So for the hill, I'm gonna switch brushes. How about some raw sienna? Let's put some of that in there. And then the ultramarine blue. We're kind of getting a hazy green, I want to call it. I think that might be okay. So this is the area of the hills that we can see. It's not shrouded by clouds or fog or whatever. And then I can actually put some tree marks up in there as well. And then what I'm going to do here is just gradually fade this out into nothing. Have that be maybe a tiny bit of gray in there. That should dry back. We'll see how that looks. So we'll pull this down into the tree area below here. Again, keeping watch of where I want to not paint. And this is all trees and whatnot down here, so we're good to put that in. I might want to make that flow a little bit more, so grab there's a couple spritzes of that. Let's rock that around a little. Okay, we've got some lighter areas I just need to control there. It went a little warm here, but that's okay. I have to resist the urge to go in and mess with it. Watercolor doesn't like that, so I'm not going to do that. Let's adjust our clips a little. Okay, so now I can maybe start working on the trees over here. I'm just going to break this edge a little, so that when we put the trees in, it's not a hard edge right there. This is Cad Yellow, so I'm adding some opaqueness to some of this. That looks like a mad face there. You gotta be careful with that sort of thing. I do like using this brush for trees. The length of the brush lends itself to making interesting marks. And I want to be aware of the warm and cool. constantly shifting. Now if I'm going to scrape back, I need to make sure I've got some thick paint to scrape back, thick and dark. Some cool stuff going on here, and maybe a nice break there, something like that. Can add in another pigment, and that is this Quinacridone Rust, one of my favorite colors. I just love this color. If I mix that with this Ultramarine Blue, I get a really nice dark green. So I've got the trees up to the edge of that barn. Now I've got this area right here. I might want to add an accent to it. So maybe lean it more to a golden color or a yellow color. Let's see how that looks. Maybe even the Pyrrol. Could be an autumn scene as well. And then bring in some of this around it. I have to pay attention to what's going on underneath here too. We've got some lighter, maybe more of a raw sienna look. Put those in while it's wet there so they can do some blending. Now I'm also paying attention to the sheen, how wet this is, because I want to scrape back some branches in there. So let's take a look. Yeah, it's still fairly damp, but let's give it a try. I'll grab my card here and then take a look and see what we can come up with. And that's still pretty wet. Okay, so we'll wait on this a little bit longer. Doesn't hurt to have different, I'm going to put this up here so I don't forget, different strengths of the scraping up back that's not a bad thing. Let's see here. Let's go with some muted greens again up in here, just to add in something here. I like the look of that green. Do something like that. Then we've got the trees on this side. It's pretty wet still above that area, just not horrible. It'll give us some automatic branches. I do paint with both hands. I don't know, it's probably not recommended, but I do it. Let's see here. You know, I erased my line to the point where I can't see it now. Oh well. I get different marks if I use my other non-dominant hand. I'm a lefty. Maybe a little darker above. Let that bloom into some branches. I'll just do a few of these. Fewer is better than too many. Maybe something up in here. All right, so we'll revisit that, this side as well. Put that up there as a reminder. Just get a nice dark, deep purple color. And then I can shade that with some neutral tint if I want to darken it even more. So if I take a look at that, let's see here. I think that might be a little dark. Just pull that down here. And then we'll shift this tone warm now. So I'm going to use the same, that Quinacridone Rust, and just blend that in. Giving it some interest here with that tonal shift. Maybe some Pyrrol in there as well. The doors and windows, we'll make those dark. This side here is similar in tone. Let's blast it with a hairdryer real quick. Go really thick and dark. What we can do is add in some light. Maybe there's some light reflecting inside there. And for windows, I try to not make two windows the same. And then for the roof itself, probably needs to be something fairly light, because we want to keep that light. That reflection. Whatever I have in the brush is almost enough. Now we have our poles. Let's put those in real quick. So let's mix up some darks again. Even these get varied as far as tone goes, and shape and pattern. It's almost like musical notes in a way. I do need to darken this background just a little. All right, and then our telephone pole. Telephone poles are nice because they give you a vertical. The rose in here might be something to do. Kind of a dark brown. Something kind of leads you into the painting. All right, I should probably stop there. One more thing I can do here. Let's see here. To anchor that one side of the painting down a little. Maybe the same over here. A shadow, nice shadow line wouldn't hurt to kind of define that lower portion of the bar into the ground, anchor it to the ground. Okay, now I can stop. Someone take my brushes away from me.